This is Financially Fit Radio with Cory Sickles from Safe Harbor Retirement Group. When a part of your financial strategy is out of tune, your long-term goals, your retirement savings, and your legacy can all suffer. With many years of experience in the financial industry, Cory provides his clients and prospects with the information they need regarding Social Security, retirement income planning, wealth management, and much more. Listen in as we address your financial concerns and provide helpful solutions to put you on the path to achieving your retirement goals. And now, here is Financially Fit Radio with Cory Sickles.
Well, welcome back to another episode of Financially Fit Radio. I'm Cory Sickles with Safe Harbor Retirement Group and Wealth Advisors. Happy 2020-25. It's hard to believe it's already here. If you would like anything that we discuss on the show today, feel free to give us a call at 614-760-0670, or you can always visit us online at safeharboroh.com. And while you're on our website, feel free to check out our radio page. You can listen to today's show. You can listen to previous shows. You can also subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, or Spotify. Also, feel free to watch today's show on our YouTube channel. Just type in Safe Harbor Retirement Group. You can watch today's show as well as previous shows. And again, we're here to help and make sure that you have the best retirement that you can. So if you do have any questions, always feel free to reach out to us. Again, you can reach us on our website at safeharboroh.com. or just give us a call at 614-760-0670. Well, today we're going to talk about, really, we want to set you up for 2025. We had a great show last week talking about the things that you really should be doing. Now we want to kind of talk about things that you should not be doing. So, some common mistakes that people make as they plan for retirement. But before we dive into that, let me introduce to you my co-host this week and every week, and that's Tony Shore. Tony, Happy New Year.
Well, Happy New Year to you too, Cory. Hopefully 2025 will be a good one, and I'm excited about the new year. Always a chance to kind of reevaluate and get a fresh start, and avoiding financial mistakes is a great way to spend 2025. Make sure you don't make some costly mistakes in your investing, in your retirement planning. So I can't wait to do this show with you today. I've been good. I had a pretty good weekend, and just getting into the new year, starting off great, starting off strong. How about you? How was your weekend? What have you been up to?
It's good. We actually, obviously we don't record on the weekend. We record a little bit before. So today is our first day of like some major snow. We had I don't even know, Tony, 4 to 6 inches.
Really?
Everything's closed. It seems like I drove in the office today and to do the show, and yeah, I'm the only one in the office, so everyone's working from home today. And I'm sure I had client meetings that are probably going to end up wanting to cancel as well. So
sure.
Roads didn't seem that bad, but if you don't need to go out, why go out?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I mean, back in Minnesota, where I'm from, 4 to 6 inches, nothing closes at 4 to 6 inches.
Exactly right.
Life goes on as normal. It takes about 4 feet of snow to close things down here.
Sure, I'm sure.
But yeah, I mean, 4 to 6 inches. 6 inches is a lot of snow to get. I mean, you're going to be out there shoveling, and
I know there was a little bit. It was a little blowy out. I mean, I went out and blew my driveway today.
Yeah,
with my blower. I'd at least get it out. Hopefully this will be the last time I use it all year, but you never know.
You hope. You never know, though. We have, to be honest, in Minnesota, hardly any snow so far this year. And it heated up for a while, so we have hardly any on the ground even. But it's freezing cold here. We got the polar vortex. It's really, really cold. I mean, single digits, and at night below zero. So cold, no snow so far.
Right. Yeah. So, but it's hard to believe we're already in 2025. We had a last, we had a last one last time that was, we wanted to start the year strong. That was our episode last week. And I think another good thing we want to be able to talk about today is just just things that you shouldn't, mistakes you shouldn't, things you want to try to avoid for 2025. It's not only 2025, it's things you always want to try to avoid, period.
Yeah. Yep.
So,
So what's the first thing on the list? I know there are a lot of financial mistakes to be avoided that you've seen people make that you want to tell people to avoid. What's number one on that list?
well, I think the number one thing that I would probably say, Tony, is people really need to look at how they're saving and how much they're saving, right? Obviously, one thing that I guess, as you kind of go through life, one thing that you'll kind of find out is it can be tough to save,
Yeah.
especially if you're younger. Maybe you're trying to buy a house, or maybe you're younger and now you have kids and you're trying to not only pay for that, but then you got to start saving for college, and kids are expensive in general. But the one thing that you do have to find a way to do is be able to save even during those times. So, not saving enough. So in an ideal situation, you'd like to be able to save 10 to 15% of whatever you earn. We've talked about that on the show before. But if you're, if you're say in your mid 30s, and yes, you do have kids, and yes, you do want to start, saving for college, and I would highly recommend that you meet with an advisor to figure out on how to be able to also make sure that you're saving for retirement. If you have a 401k, make sure you're at least putting in what they match. It's free money. You can double the money that you're wanting to be able to put into. But at the end of the day, you have to find a way to be able to save, because the earlier that you save, the less you really have to save in order to have the retirement that you want. There's so many instances, Tony, where I see people that, once they hit like in their 50s or 55 and the kids just finally move out, they go, well, now it's time to start saving for me. And it's so tough to try to be able to save 10 or 15 years of what you're really going to need to have in retirement.
Yeah. And so not saving now and not saving enough are two big mistakes that
Yes.
people out there need to avoid.
Yeah, it is. Meet with someone, figure out on how you have to be able to do it. Everyone has somewhere in their budget that they can kind of eliminate. I guarantee you that.
Oh,
we all overspend one way or the other. But you have to be able to make sure that you're saving. You can look at the different types of numbers, right? But you want to have somewhere between 20 to 25 times of whatever your income is now. That's what you really need to have saved, on how much you want to be able to take out of your investments in retirement, right? So if you want to take 100,000 out, you're going to need like $2.5 million to be able to. That's what you need to have in your nest egg. So in order to do that, it takes time to be able to do that, and time is on your side the earlier that you do start.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's really important for people to understand the power of that compounding interest, and to really maximize that, you need time. And so, save early, save often, right?
That's exactly right.
As we always say.
Yep. And as we start talking about saving, the one thing that I kind of mentioned, but this is something that you really need to make sure that you're doing, is you want to make sure that you are contributing to your retirement account where you work, right? So, if you have a 401k or a 403b or a thrift savings plan, whatever that might end up being, you want to make sure that you're putting money into that. And if you're definitely getting a match, you want to make sure that you're putting in at least that amount. If they're going to match 4%, up to 4% of your pay, you need to be able to make sure that you're putting in 4% of your pay, because you're getting an additional 4%. I mean, we talked about this before, Tony. No one wants to be able to work and say, you know what, you can pay me 4% less and I'm going to be happy, right?
Right.
It's free money.
Yeah.
So you have to be able to take it in order to do that. And the other part that you need to make sure of is that you're signing up when you first can sign up as well.
Yeah.
And
as early as possible.
That's correct. One of the things we talked about during, Start Strong in 2025 is if you have your savings set up so it's just automatically coming out, you're not going to miss it, right? You get a raise and you're already doing 4 or 5%. As you get that raise, that automatically increases. It's coming automatically out. you're not going to even notice that you're actually contributing into it because it's not coming home to you for you to be able to, have to put other assets in for that. So automate it just like you automate your bills. Everyone automates their bills coming out of their checking accounts. Just automate your savings coming out of your checking account or out of your paycheck. It's the easiest way to be able to save.
Yeah. Yeah. You can make it easy. And if you're working with somebody like people as well. What's next on the list of mistakes we need to avoid?
Well, let's just say, Tony, for example, well, you're working, you're saving. Let's just say you're in your 40s or 50 years old, and all of a sudden you need some type of cash. The one thing that I would highly recommend that you do not do, make sure you talk to an advisor before you do anything like this, and that is take money out of your retirement account too early, or you do not want to cash out any of your savings if you don't have to.
Right.
Not
Those 401ks and things and IRAs, those are for retirement, not before, right?
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And if you're not 59 and a half, for example, then you could get a 10% penalty for having access to that money. So not only are you penalizing your retirement, but now you still got to pay that. It's going to count as income tax. And let's just say you're in a 20% tax bracket. Then you have a 10% penalty on top of that. Before you know it, now you're paying 30% in taxes just to have access to that cash. That's exactly why you set up emergency funds, so you don't have to dip into your retirement in case something comes up where you do need to have cash.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. And I think, Cory, a lot of people have made that mistake. They're like, well, let's cash this out now and spend it now, or let's use the money from this to pay for our kids' college. But you don't want to sacrifice your own retirement, because then you're going to be a burden on your children later. And you've got to be able to take care of yourself. You have to pay yourself first, then help the kids, then do the other things, right?
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So, just, be smart about it. It's just, here's the one thing that I would probably say. It's so easy to take money out of things or do things that you maybe shouldn't do. But, that's why you have an advisor, is so you can ask them, hey, I want to purchase a house, for example. Well, how should I go about doing that? What money should I take out in order to do the down payment? How much can I afford? Those are the questions you can ask an advisor. Something comes up. Well, I got to buy an air conditioner. Where should I take that money out of? The last thing we're going to sit there and say is, well, how about, the first, we're definitely not going to say, well, let's just take it out of your 401k, unless that's your last resort, right? There's got to be other ways to be able to do that. And by having an advisor, by working with an advisor, I think you're going to be in a better situation, right?
Right.
The other part of it is I think a lot of people make it's not, the way I want to say this, Tony. I think a lot of people don't make the right decisions when it comes to planning for taxes. So it's very easy to have what I think is poor planning for taxes. And what I mean by that is a lot of what happens with a lot of people, and I see this all, day in and day out, right? You live your life, you kind of do your thing, and then come March or April or whatever, you get TurboTax and you do your taxes and you pay your tax bill, right? But there's really no planning around that. Are there ways to be able to possibly pay lower taxes today? And I think by working with an advisor, by having your own CPA, a good CPA is going to give you some things to think about in order to possibly lower your tax liability. I mean, no one wants to pay the IRS,
right,
or Uncle Sam, or whatever you want to call them, right? But no one wants to pay. Everyone wants to pay what they think is their fair share, and there are ways to be able to make sure your fair share is lower, especially if you're in a small business. Does it make sense to put more money into your 401k to lower your overall tax liability? But there's two things you have to look at anymore today. One is tax planning for today, and then you have to think about tax planning for tomorrow. Right? And what I mean by for tomorrow, I'm talking about is now when you're retired. The day will come. It comes faster. It's hard to believe I'm 55 years old when I go back and look at it. I mean, I'm 10 years away from Medicare, um, which is kind of hard to believe when I kind of put it that way.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh,
But
Cory, you're still young yet. Don't worry about it.
but the whole point of it is it comes a lot quicker than anyone could actually imagine.
It's true. Time flies when you're having fun, like
right?
us, right? Yep.
And taxes aren't going to be lower. Are you going to be in a different tax bracket when you retire? Maybe. The majority of my clients aren't. So you have to be able to make sure that you're going to be in a situation in retirement where everything's not taxed when you take money out of. There's so
Right.
many clients that come through our offices here, and the majority of their money is in IRAs and 401ks or thrift savings plans or anything that's going to be as taxed as long as you live. Right? They have
Right.
Roth 401ks now. Does it make sense to pay your taxes now versus later? Could. Again, I think that's a good question to ask your advisor. That's what we're here to do. I'm a firm believer, pay your tax now. Put as much money into tax-free money as you possibly can. And that's by putting it into life insurance or a Roth account, because it's a lot easier in retirement if you need $10,000 to take $10,000 out of a Roth account and you don't have to worry about paying taxes compared to, now you got to pay 20%. I got to take $12,000 out in order to still get my $10,000. And it's just going to get worse potentially, right? So, work with it. I mean, that's what we're here to do, is to make sure that not only are you setting up, or not only are you saving to have the retirement that you want, but you're also saving the right way. That's so important to be able to make sure that all of your money is not going to be taxed in retirement.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's smart. You have to ensure that your taxes, you're not going to end up in a bad tax situation. A lot of people don't realize that those traditional 401ks and the traditional IRAs can and will be taxed in retirement, fully taxed. And then some of your Social Security may be taxed as well. So you really need a plan in place for that. So don't make that mistake. Work with a financial services professional, someone like yourself, Cory. I think that makes sense. Taxes always come up in these conversations. And I would imagine, Cory, that there are a lot of expensive mistakes you've seen people make financially on the tax side of things.
It is. And a lot of times what we end up doing, Tony, is trying to put together a plan in retirement that's going to be able to potentially save taxes for them later on down the line.
Yeah.
Right. A lot of people do a great job of saving. The question is, are you saving the right way?
Right. Yeah.
And it's not as easy as I think what a lot of people think, right?
Yeah, especially when the tax implications of that savings comes into play as well. We
Right.
started off the list talking about not saving enough or starting early enough. And now we're talking about savings again, but we're talking about the tax aspect of saving. So
That's exactly right.
there's a lot to it. So what's something else you want to talk about?
Well, everybody wants to retire early.
Right.
You hear that all the time, right?
Yeah.
I want to retire as early as possible. And again, there's other things we can do by putting together financial plans to make sure of. But I do believe the majority of people retire too early, and they also take their Social Security too early.
Yep.
They kind of go hand in hand. Believe me, I understand when people say I've worked in my entire life and I want to retire and I want to be able to take it. But when you start putting together income plans, and we want to make sure that you're not going to run out of money, right? The biggest part of that is the foundation of a lot of people's income stream is going to be Social Security.
Yep.
And in some cases, it makes a lot more sense to make $300, $400, $500, or $600 more a month in retirement by delaying a few years, just so you can have the retirement that you want.
Yeah.
In some cases it could make sense. Everyone's situation's different. Obviously, health goes into a lot of this type of stuff. But what it boils down to at the end of the day is how much income are you going to need? How are we going to be able to fill that? And Social Security is a part of that, but it should not be the main income stream in retirement. That's the most important part. And there's so many times, Tony, where that is the majority of the income coming into retirement. And if that's the case, I hate to say this, but in most cases, you probably have to work a little longer so you can make a little bit more. It's about more per month rather than where am I going to break even on Social Security.
Yeah, I hear a lot of people talk, Cory, about, oh, I'm going to retire at 62 because that's when I can start taking Social Security. Well, how much other money do you have saved up? What are you going to do at 62?
Right.
What's your purpose going to be? What's your reason to get up every morning and get ready? And how long do you plan on living if you retire at 62? And how are you going to pay for health care? Because
Right.
Medicare is not going to be there to help out, and it's going to be costly. So, yeah, there are a lot of mistakes to be made when it comes to when you choose to retire. That's a really good point. I know you specifically as a retirement income professional and a retirement planner, a financial planner, you probably see that a lot where people they come to you after they've maybe made a decision to retire and now they're in a bad situation, right?
Yeah. Or they just say, I'm retiring, in 3 months. And how are you going to help me out here?
Right.
Right.
Yeah,
And we,
that's
obviously
tough.
we can work with you on that. Just
Right,
not the
sure.
idea. It's just not the ideal situation.
No, yeah.
And I think another mistake to avoid too is, and this is where again an advisor really can help you, and that is just to make sure that you're always invested based upon what your risk level is. Right. Um, I see
Sure.
too many people that are probably younger that are not aggressive enough, and I see too many people that are older that are too aggressive.
Yeah,
But
too much at risk.
exactly.
The older some people, as they head into retirement, a financial mistake they make is having too much risk. Yeah.
That's exactly right. So you just, whether you're diversified, investing in different things, that's always great. But at the end of the day, you just want to make sure you're balanced based upon how your risk level is. And as you age, you naturally get less aggressive. You just need to make sure that your investments are following that portfolio, which is why we do this every year for our clients. We reassess. You're 1 year closer to retirement, or you are retired. So it's always good to be able to make sure that you understand the way that you are, today, from an investment standpoint. Make sure you're allocated the correct way.
Yeah. And I think the last point we want to make, I know that you wanted to talk about before the end of the show, and this encompasses all the other mistakes that you can make. And this is the one way you can fix those mistakes and avoid any costly mistakes with your finances. What's that final thing you wanted to talk about?
I always say this, Tony. If you don't have a financial plan today, you need to have one tomorrow.
Right.
I
Have a
always say that.
financial plan,
You need
right?
to have a financial plan. You need a blueprint of where you're actually going today until the day that you pass.
Yep.
You do. And,
Yeah.
and a big part of that blueprint is to know how much money you're going to be able to make. Am I going to potentially run out of money? You need to make sure that you understand that. Having a financial plan the nice part about it is, Tony, it's not set in stone. It's
Right.
set today based upon the assets you have. But that's why we redo it every year based upon the market conditions, how much money you've taken out, what type of pensions you have, whatever changes. Things happen. You were
Yeah.
married last year, now you're a widow or widower. Things change. And that's why it's so important to have a plan to know where you're going.
Yeah. That's huge, Cory. I just think that's the bottom line. Work with a financial professional. That's a mistake I see so many people make. They don't work with somebody like yourself. And that's probably the biggest financial mistake because doing so, working with you and having a plan in place, a written financial plan, and reviewing it at least once a year is going to help you avoid all these other mistakes, which is what we're talking about today. So before we go, Cory, let our listeners know how they can do that, get that plan in place, or get at least a second opinion on where they're at.
Yeah, always give us a call at 614-760-0670 or visit our website at safeharboroh.com. And just remember, all meetings are complimentary. There's no financial obligation. We're here to help to make sure that you have the best possible retirement, that's why we're here.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's great, Cory. And I know you love hearing from our listeners and viewers out there. Pick up the phone, give Cory a call, 614-760-0670. And that does it for today's episode of Financially Fit Radio. Thank you for listening to Financially Fit Radio. Don't pay too much for taxes or retire without a sound income plan. For more information, contact Cory Sickles at Safe Harbor Retirement Group. Call 614-760-0670 or visit their website at financiallyfitoh.com.
All matters discussed during the show are for informational purposes only. Each individual situation may vary, and the opinions expressed here may not apply to everyone. Materials presented are believed to be from reliable sources, and no representations can be made as to its accuracy. All ideas and information should be discussed in detail with one of our qualified representatives prior to implementation. We are not affiliated with or endorsed by the Social Security Administration, the Federal Medicare Program, or any other government agency. Calling this number will direct you to a licensed sales agent.